Hello, and welcome again to another episode of Mike's Toy Review. I am your host, Mustachioed Mike, and for this week we are going to examine a geek phenomena known as San Diego Comic-Con. And more specifically, we will look at a figure exclusive to the convention known as Lobo from the DC Universe Classics line built by Mattel. And with me now is a Daniel Scott who works with 3GodKings as a reporter, and he had the opportunity to visit firsthand the convention, and he was actually the one who brought me this figure. Daniel, welcome. Did you get a chance to really scope out a lot of the action figure areas?
That's pretty much all I mostly did, aside from looking at the game areas, you know, as I focus on the game stuff on our site. But I looked at a lot of the action figures, primarily in the Star Wars area, because there was a lot of unreleased stuff that's coming out to promote Clone Wars. And then I went into the Mattel area. I went to Hasbro.
Would you say the action figures were well integrated within the other stands, or were the action figures kind of separate in their own area?
Believe it or not, it was implemented very well. As soon as you walk into the convention center, I mean, obviously you're going to see all the comic booths, a lot of the artists sitting down at the table, kind of like its original roots.
Exactly.
You know, and which was kind of nice to see that they're still doing it as a comic convention. But when you go into the areas like the Hollywood studded areas, you're going to see just massive signs. I mean, you see the Mattel signs, you see the Hasbro signs, and you had a direct definition of where to go to see some of the new toys. When you walk into the Mattel area, I mean, it was just this big old archway, had nice glass cases for everything that you could see, and it was almost like looking at it. Every toy section pretty much was like a museum, a mini museum.
I've actually scoped out some of the images, and it looks like, well, DC Universe Classics has up to the 7th wave already planned out. I saw some great images of Hawkman. Of course, the Green Lantern wave is supposed to be coming out soon. I even saw an image of Flash. Did you get a chance to see all these figures?
I didn't get to see a lot of the DC stuff. We were in that area for a short amount of time, but of the stuff I saw, you know, it was pretty amazing. I mean, just the line to get this figure here was pretty incredible. I mean, you had
how long do you think you waited?
Well, the first day we went, they sold out. We got there roughly around 4 o'clock, and the way they were doing the distribution of the toys was they'd allocate it so that if they sold a certain amount during the day, they would cut it off and then sell it the next day to give everybody a chance and an opportunity to buy them.
So how long would you say you waited in the line?
Actually, I didn't wait in line for very long, but it was difficult to get to get the little ticket, because the second day it was such a huge demand for this particular figure that you had to get a ticket to get this. And a particular gentleman was just like, well, the tickets are over in this one area. I went to go over there, and some guy just came up to me and says, hey, do you want to get one of the Lobo figures?
Oh, wow.
And I was like, yeah, actually I do. And he, you know, got me up there. And
would you say that Lobo was one of the most popular?
It was one of the most popular figures in that particular booth.
Of course, there's so many other booths.
Yeah, so many other booths, and every section had their kind of high-profile Comic-Con exclusive toy.
I know Mattel was also selling a Giganta from the Justice League Unlimited line. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at our Lobo figure. First of all, the packaging. It's very interesting looking. It's a gigantic box, if you can understand the size of this here. Same basic layout of the DC Universe Classics line. You got the orange card on the back. You're going to see a little bit of information about Lobo, including a couple little stats. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of cool because it looks like this is a ship, and Lobo is arriving to the ship, and they are pulling up a database on Lobo. Let's go ahead and open up Lobo to see how he stands up to the competition. Looks like it has some blistering up here, which is actually kind of cool because, to tell you the truth, you could open this figure up.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, so
you could open it up, and then you can actually close it back once you're finished. But fortunately for me, Daniel did purchase 2 of these. One for in the packaging and one for this review and to play with. All right. So now we see Lobo in all of his finest. Oh, wow.
Yeah, I forgot they gave out some of those 3D glasses.
It appears that Lobo comes with 3D glasses. This I was unaware of. Looking at this, Lobo does come with his dog, which sadly I was kind of expecting when I read that Lobo would come with dog, that he would come with his famous motorcycle in all of the comics. The DC Direct did put out a figure earlier of Lobo, which contains the motorcycle. So let's go ahead and pull out Lobo. He is massive. And much tougher than other DC Universe Classics figures to remove. All right. So we have Lobo. Great looking figure. I have to say, even when I saw the preliminary specs on this figure, I was amazed. You can even see on the feet here, we have blood traces, little speckles of blood, which is by far something we'd never get to see in a mass DC produced line. One of the reasons for choosing Lobo, rumored, is that stores such as Walmart and Target would not actually carry a figure that I guess is presented so proudly in adult-themed comics. Let's keep in mind that Lobo does have some risque adventures. He is a murderer. He is not a good superhero, you would like to say, as Batman. He's not even a good supervillain, such as Joker. But I guess they figured Joker killing little kids, as in Robin, is much more fan-friendly. Anyways, we get to see the articulation has the same points. We have a foot articulation. We don't have an ankle articulation as much, as far as the lower, unless it's stiff. Yeah, it's a bit stiff there. We have a strange articulation on the kneecap, only because his thigh joint is so close to it. The rubber little knee pads here are kind of cool, very good texture to them. It's a very solid feeling figure overall. The belt does not get in the way, which I actually thought would with the articulation. This looks like he can move decently well. I wouldn't say he'd be able to sit down on a chair. He could, I guess, awkwardly. He even has a gun holster here if you remove the gun, which is very cool. Looks like Judge Dredd's gun, to tell the truth. And, as always, fits nicely in the hands. No finger joints, of course. He does come with his choice weapon, which is the hook and chain, everyone's favorite. It looks like it's actually attached to his arm, so you don't lose it. You can toss it and catch soups, and he can bring them in for a nice bounty. The head joint, the hair kind of gets in the way a little bit. The glasses are, thankfully, removable. And that's a big plus on my half, because I wouldn't want him to always have these 3D glasses on. They got his, I guess, the face perfect. It's exactly the Lobo we all know from the comics. The red eyes, etc. And one thing I'm very pleased about to see is that the paint spackle seems to be gone. I guess they, Four Horsemen specifically, did a better job when applying the paint scheme, because this wasn't exclusive. Great looking figure. Let's just go ahead and compare him as far as scale to another figure, the Red Tornado here. Red Tornado, as you can see, is from the first wave of DC Universe Classics. And if you can see the paint scheme right there on the yellow, DC Universe Classics, as I've always seen, they've always had a little bit below average on the paint job. Let's stand him next to Red Tornado, and it looks as if Lobo is a giant. This looks like the Giganta that they promised us. The scale does not seem to match, which I was very disappointed with. I like the 6-inch scale, personally. I've always favored it because everything can always stand right next to each other. It looks all, I guess, in scope. If I put these on my shelves, he's going to look ridiculously large. And if one saw this, they'd honestly believe that, you know, Lobo was not part of the same line. This is a different action figure line. Reading the back of the box, it does say his specs are 6'4" in height. I'm not quite sure how tall Red Tornado is, but I'm sure he's not 4 foot. Even though when you compare the feet right here, the sizes are ridiculous. I know he's not a basketball player. Looking at his hair, it's actually done in 2 pieces, so you can actually separate it. He has a little mohawk in the back there. So that's actually kind of cool. It helps with the movement of the head. Great looking figure. See if you can get the back here. So, all in all, I would definitely say the Four Horsemen did a wonderful sculpt on the figure, but the scale, as long as the back of the box is concerned, is off, and that is a huge disappointment. Well, I just wanted to thank you again, Daniel, for picking up this figure and the other one for me. Thank you again for joining us here at USF, and we will see you next time.